This is the regional breakdown where Thurions came out and said, today is our day. 30% of you guys have not smashed living crap out of that subscribe button. Smash it so we can climb up the 100K ladder. Your Pasadena, California regional breakdown is here, and this is quite an interesting one. We had Flunderies being your most represented deck out of this top cut, which is actually amazing. Seeing how the rest of this event kind of shaped up here, that's actually kind of interesting. We had Sword Soul coming in and winning this event with its one representation in top cut. And then Thurions. Sun Avalon Thurions, or your plant little combo deck, was probably the most interesting thing to kind of take this event and just kind of get off the ground. Now, there were some other odd representations throughout other events of the weekend that you did get the chance to see Sun Avalon doing its job, but this is the one event where we had two of them topping a 500-man event. All right, and then across the table here, speaking of Thurions, we also had the Punk Thurion deck stepping up to the plate to show us that it can also compete. I'm actually kind of surprised that it took this long for players to look at Punk and kind of start to decide what they want to do with it. We do know that once we get further down the pipeline here later on in the year, when we get to Power of the Elements, that this deck will take off a little bit easier. But for now, seeing that we can build in our Thurion stuff, extend out the package a little bit more and make use of, they do have an in-house Psychic Thurion monster so they can take advantage of, is really great. There was one more deck that we weren't really too sure of as of making this video because the duelist left pretty early, but from what I've been told, it was actually Despia taking the last spot here, but I don't have much of a way to confirm that outside of hearsay for that. So that is your entire Pasadena regional breakdown. Holy Thurions. Let's dig on into those deck lists now, shall we? Your undefeated first place out of this regional was none other than Sword Soul Tenyi, climbing over the corpses of all of the Sun Avalon and Flunderies players, getting it into first place is nothing short of amazing consistency here. I also think that, it's interesting to see what these builds do. We are on the one Synthon of the double Heavenly Dragon cycle, which is fine, with double Vessel. I have noticed that a lot of these builds are on double for the development of this format, which is fine. Double Prosperity or double Desire is always going to be the hard carry for this. It just took this card coming back to make this deck just a wee little bit better. Outside of that, your only other real question is three Ecclesia or two Ecclesia? And to be honest with you, your answer is 3 for this build. Like I said, we've seen some 2 of Ecclesias before. They're not necessarily bad, but this is what we're working with right now for this build. So congratulations on locking down first place. Very, very impressive overall. Second place here was Flunderies. One interesting thing down here is we have the second copy of the Unexplored Winds down here with access to the side deck, which is actually pretty nice. Alright, so that means that we'll be able to access this if we need. We also have Dimensional Fissure in the side deck. Alright, I also see here that we have the Harpy Harpist present in this deck. Harpist, as of late, has become one of those cards that more and more players are genuinely exploring. I actually think that's pretty interesting. The fact that this card gives you another accessible bounce during the opponent's turn actually can make all of the difference for this. So it's definitely something interesting. Of course, Dark World No More's. Also, no Book of Moons in this deck. I know Book of Moon was a pretty popular sub option for a lot of players, but it definitely looks like at this point in time that has definitely taken to the wayside. All right, next up here is our first Sun Avalon list. You guys know that this is a basic blanket negate, right? Like, I don't know how many of you guys realize this, but yeah, this card's pretty good. So what makes this deck go around at the moment? Well, you can thank the Link 1 tree here. Mr. Link 1 tree says, I'm going to grow up someday to be a big, bad, amazing card. And, we also have the Adventure Package, which is just the GOAT for this deck. Being able to set up an Omni Negate on top of everything else you're doing here, and then have access to the Rose Whip, absolutely phenomenal. Some OCG lists that we saw like very early on that were approaching this did pick up and play Rose Whip with Malaya of the Trees. This build does not have Malaya of the Trees, nor do we have access to the Lone Fire Blossoms that some of the other builds have had in the past. I also see that, yes, we are sporting off the Illegal Knight in here. For those of you that are going to be like, oh, you know, like, Illegal Knight value? To be perfectly honest with you, this all just kind of works itself out here. All right. Outside of that, we have Crusawn Designators to make sure that our plays will resolve. I also like the Droll and Lockbirds in here. Depending on how, you know, more extensive that this format kind of develops itself, honestly, Droll and Lockbird seems like a pretty cool option tree for this. Next up here is our Thurion Punk list. Now, I am not the greatest expert on watching this deck resolve, but when you have a strategy that's able to present itself in synchro ladder climbing here, you got to ask yourself, why would this not end up being consistent? Well, it's done just that. We are actually more extended into the Thurion package here. Some of the other stuff. We are playing Charge here, which lets you send a Thurion's card, except for Charge or Argeo System. Her hand or face up and spell and trap cards on the graveyard to draw 2 cards. Huh. So we are actually playing we're playing our Destiny draw effectively for this archetype, which is actually pretty cool. Tribble of the Sorcerer to search for, you know, Boreas and Reguluxes, and we're actually playing the one Duke Yule in the one copy of the Bull Ein here. So you are going to be extending out your little package options here, at least for the Psychic. Well, I mean, why would you not play the Psychic? Because half of your little interaction points in here for these guys are Psychic. You're just kind of feeding out for your extra types here. And of course, this is going to be your Warrior support here, which, I mean, you have access to through the Deer Note. So definitely one of the more interesting builds out of this weekend, in my personal opinion, to kind of step up here and just kind of shock the community and go, yeah, Thurions can do something, ladies and gentlemen. I mean, hey, an Omni Negate is an Omni Negate. All right. Next up here is our next Sun Avalon list. This was Pete Navarro's 5th place list. Now, this is a little bit different than what you've seen in the other iteration here. You see, basically, still the same stuff in terms of development for this here. But the main thing that we're going to be valuing a little bit better here is, we're playing a little mini Rika package in here. Yes, you do have Axe. We are actually making Teardrop in here. 2 level 8s? Are you kidding me? You can actually Snowdrop and then make off with like Borea or Regulux so that you can have this loaded up. That is hilarious to me, that you can have access points in combo for that. You know what? I'm going to clap for that. That is really awesome. Outside of that, you're still going to be using your Brave package to kind of detour the opponent. I mean, the fact that your normal summon is literally a normal monster for you to start Sun Avalon combo is nothing short of hilarious at the end of the day. To be perfectly honest with you, ladies and gentlemen, in terms of honesty for the Sun Avalon builds here, I think a lot of... We did see last format that this deck did have a regional top. It was out of the European side of the game, which isn't a bad thing by any stretch of the imagination. We didn't see anything on our side of the game make a top 8 or even like make a top 32 to my knowledge, because that knowledge can be scarce. But considering the fact that this was still able to top a 500-man regional, and there were 2 of them side by side here, proves that plant combo, whether or not consistent or not, can still kind of turn those heads and make people go, oh, like, what am I supposed to do for this? So keep an eye on this. Be aware of it. Like, be aware of like both versions of this deck now, and understand that it does have a very high combo ceiling because we did get to keep this stuff through to this format. Thank you, Konami, for not hitting the break package. Last but not least, here's another Flounder list. So, you gotta give another shout out here to the top 8 Flounder players, man. Alright, they're doing their best with their anti-meta shenanigans, and that's fine. This build is not playing the Dark Ruler No Mores. We are actually building in the Mystic Mines in here. Kind of acting in the same way that the Dark Ruler No Mores would. You just slap it down on the table, laugh at your opponent. Your opponent goes, oh, what am I supposed to do about that? I also like our very Sky Striker package down here. For the memes, I suppose. Need a quick extra deck to Prosperity? Sure. Alright. No Change of Heart present in this list, but I think that's honestly fine. So what do you think about the Pasadena regional breakdown. Please leave a comment down below. Tell me what you guys think. Make sure you guys smash the crap out of that subscribe button so you guys don't miss out on more awesome content. And I will see your beautiful faces back here later in the day with some more cool awesome content. You guys stay safe out there, alright? Peace out, guys. Patrons, thank you.
Thank you so much for watching. Check out these other videos.